Okay. Gavin, good to see you. So thank you everybody for coming.
Good to see you guys as well. Nice to be here.
Hi,
Um,
Gavin. I'm so happy to see you.
Hi, Zay. Hi. Yeah, I'm happy to see you guys, and I'm eager to learn about what happened this weekend. So, yeah.
Okay, very good. So the feminine aspect of of the deity relationship is always Tara, is always the mother, is always the fecund one, the one who is giving birth. So so in this case, we are visualizing ourselves as the feminine aspect of the deity. The deity, the main deity here is I shouldn't say the main deity, but the deity, the object of the POA is the Buddha Amitabha, and his consort is Tara, and Vajrayogini is representative of Tara. So we visualize ourselves as the feminine aspect, and we are giving ourselves, we are transferring our consciousness to that of the union with Buddha Amitabha, with the Buddha. So this is a fundamental thing with tantric practice and visualization of being the male and the female simultaneously, because that is the object of this, is to do that so that there's no difference. There's an inseparability between that which we might call the masculine and that which we might call the feminine, that they become inseparable from each other and become in the Dharmakaya. They become unexpressible. They become non-conceptual and so on like that. So for us to be able to approach that, we need to be able to have a deal with our physicality and deal with our intellectuality. And how do we process that? How do we bring those two things together so that we can visualize that transformation of consciousness, that transformation of becoming the Buddha Amitabha, becoming one with Buddha Amitabha, thus becoming the non-conceptual, which is beyond the Buddha Amitabha itself. So I'm going to put up some pictures and so on, and a PowerPoint that I have. If you have the book, if you printed that, or if you were at the session and you got the handout, we've got photographs in the book and so on, so that you can look at. So we'll be referring back and forth to them. So have a little patience with us, and we will be able to explain this. Um, The yogini, Vajrayogini, the meaning of the word Vajrayogini, the name Vajrayogini, is two Sanskrit words. The first one is Vajra, and we know that to be indestructible, that indestructible wisdom, that indestructible knowledge base of what it is to be in phenomenal nature, but also from the point of view of the true nature, the true nature of the Dharmakaya. So this Vajrayogini would be a Sambhogakaya deity. When we talk about the three kayas, we talk about the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Nirmanakaya. So the Dharmakaya would be the Buddha Amitabha, or would be what he represents, what he is symbolic of, is the Dharmakaya, which would be that true Buddha nature, would be like Samantabhadra, the Buddha Samantabhadra, the Buddha Vajradhara, that indescribable wisdom, power that is within each one of ourselves. So in Sambhogakaya form, then he takes the body position and so on of Buddha Amitabha. So let me screen share this now, and maybe this will start making a little bit more sense. Oh, there it is. So here is Buddha Amitabha. Let me get this out of the way. I presume you all can see this. So here is Buddha Amitabha, and he is seated on a throne, and he has his 2 feet together. He's a peaceful deity because he's on the white moon disk that we've talked about many times before. Here's the lotus pedestal. And then he has a red body. Both hands are in the meditative position, and he's holding the mendicant's bowl, the monk's bowl, here in his 2 hands. And aside from his robes, he doesn't have any ornaments or anything like that. He does have the usnisha, which is the top knot at the top of his head, which represents the Dharma knowledge, the teaching of the Dharma knowledge. He is the vessel of the Dharma knowledge and is being able to express that to all beings. And his wisdom is the wisdom of discriminating awareness. So we choose what it is that we're going to be able to focus on. You know, the phenomenal, all the phenomenal things that are happening, the phenomena that's going on around us, and we see that all as a display of the Dharmakaya, of the true nature. All this is a manifestation of that. We see it as appearances, and we give interpretation to what all this means and so on in the phenomenal sense. But then there is this spiritual sense that is beyond the phenomenal, that is being able to see this as the continuum of energy, however you wish to, space, whatever, that this is what we are trying to attain. This is what we're trying to go to, because this whole process is to guide us through the bardo of death, through the passage of being a human being into becoming a pure spiritual being. So it's like coming from ordinariness into our spirituality. Our physical body goes away, our intellectual brain goes away, and all that's left is that true nature, that spirituality within ourselves. So this is what we're trying to eject, is that energy into Buddha Amitabha, who is actually sitting who is on the top of our head with his feet on the top of our head, the crown of our head, the aperture. So we're trying to send our energy up to Buddha Amitabha. So here is an image, and we'll go through this.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
So all the other deities that I've seen were sitting in the lotus position. What's the significance of him having his feet in a different position?
That he's sitting in this position like that as a teacher.
Okay.
As a teacher, and you'll see images of Buddha Amitabha, who is seated in that position. The future Buddha will be sitting in that position. So here is another image of that right here. Here he said some images have him sitting on the lotus position like this. Some of them have him sitting on the throne, like you just are mentioning. So here he is. This is Buddha Amitabha in Sukhavati heaven, or Dewachen. So here he is in that heaven, which we are talking about, that we wish to go to. And here on one side is Avalokiteshvara is standing, and on the other side is Vajrapani, who is standing as his 2 attendants. So Avalokiteshvara is the Bodhisattva of compassion, and over here is Vajrapani is the Bodhisattva of Dharma power. So here they are. They're on the moon disk cushions. They represent the peacefulness, but they are in a stronger activity position by virtue of the fact that they are standing. He is seated in this. He's in a meditative position, and then the one seated on the throne, he's in the teaching position. So I hope that answers the question. Anything deeper than that, we'd have to rely on someone who has more training in that. I'm not going to. This is an introduction. I'm not trying to replace the lamas or anything like that. It's a means to be able to help us to understand a little bit more about what it is to be a Tibetan Buddhist, a Vajrayana Buddhist, the Tantra, to understand this transference of consciousness. We are born with this consciousness. When we come together with the mother and the father, the sperm and the egg, and then when we die, that consciousness then is ejected. So that's what this process is about. So he's got a ruby red body, and which represents the fire, the element of fire, the element of ripening, the element of magnetizing. So he is in the bardo and the bardo of reality. He is the object of our attention. He is the object of our meditation, because through his wisdom of discriminating awareness, now we get to understand more about what the bardo is all about itself. We're able to begin to intellectualize this as a meditation process of experience, coming back and learning what the meanings are, what the interpretations are, and then going back into the meditation, and then being able to drop the language and recognize the light, recognize the energy of that, and so on. So through this discriminating awareness, we're able to better navigate our way through and not be lost, not be caught up by our senses saying, oh, I want to go this direction, I want to go that direction, this looks appealing to me, that does not look appealing to me, and so on. So by the education process, by being able to do this and being able to apply this discriminating wisdom, we make decisions about how we're going. So what we're learning to do is excuse me, critical thinking. Okay, so going back now. So let's start at this point right here. It says, this transmission is the teaching held by the Drikung Kagyupa. So the Drikung is our lineage. Drikung is a village in Tibet that was that Lord Jigden Sumgun came from, and he founded his monastery in Drikung. And the tradition in which he was following is the Kagyu tradition. So the Kagyu D would be that tradition, the Kagyu, and the Pa is like a personification of that. That this is a place where human beings would go to, in order to be able to learn the teachings, learn the practices like that. So this is held by the Drikung Kagyupa. And each different tradition may have this version of the same PHOWA, of this PHOWA. This PHOWA is the transference of consciousness ceremony that is leading us to do that. So each of these different traditions in the Tibetan Buddhism would all be, saying more or less the same thing, but there might be some differences in the language and so on. So maybe some differences in the images of the deities. So it says now, the devoted practitioner who has no doubt in the qualified Lama and teachings can experience the sign of PHOWA merely through receiving the lung, the blessing transmission. This has been experienced by many practitioners around the world. So to say that I'm a qualified Lama would be incorrect by some people's standards, and I accept that. And if you accept that, that's fine. Whatever it is, that's fine. I've had experience with this. I've received many teachings on this, many empowerments on this, and so for an introductory purpose, I feel quite confident that I can guide you in this direction. If you want deeper experience with this, I certainly recommend that you take the empowerment with the Lama, and that's what Lama Jersum gave on Saturday, was the blessing transmission of Buddha Amitabha. So that becomes the empowerment to do this practice and so on, to have the visual object of what it is the result of the meditation process itself. So the PHOWA is that practice, the transference of consciousness. The lung is the blessing. So what the Lama would do would be to give you the vows that you would recite, would give you the deeper introduction to the meaning of the sadhana, of the practice and everything, and then would give you the vows, and then would bestow the empowerment on you through those vows. He is a conduit, if you will, to be able to help you to be able to do that, to recognize this within yourself. And then he would then recite the whole transmission of the lung, of the practice. He would recite this completely from beginning to end. And there's short versions, there's medium versions, and there's very long versions. So this might take 5 minutes, it might take all afternoon to recite this, depending on which text you are involved with, and so on. So, and then the last thing that the Lama would do would be to give you the instructions on how to do the practice. So we're not going to do that tonight. This is Lama Jersum gave those instructions on Saturday and Sunday. So you could go back on YouTube. We posted those today on YouTube. So if you're interested, you want to follow the instructions on how to do the practice. And if you need the book is in our WhatsApp. I posted it there last week. So you could use that. You could download it. You could print it, whatever, to follow those and to follow the instructions of the practice. So this has been experienced by many practitioners around the world. So first we would do the refuge and bodhicitta. So that would be the short refuge and the bodhicitta prayer, the four immeasurable qualities of bodhicitta, whichever version we happen to be doing. So we would say that. As we are visualizing this visualization, which it says, in the sky in front of one, ourselves, appears the precious throne of 8 peacocks, on which sits my gracious root Lama in the form of Buddha Amitabha, who is the essence of all the Buddhas in the 3 times. So the 3 times are the past, present, and future. So this root Lama, so we would be visualizing who our root Lama, who the one who has been instrumental in helping us to recognize our own true nature. And we may have many Lamas, and our root Lama may from one root Lama to another, and we can have many root Lamas and so on, because one takes us to a level of a ceiling, and then another Lama takes us to a step beyond that ceiling into now another level. So we don't lose the first one, but we gain another one, so we can have many and so on. So all this is who is the essence of all the Buddhas in the three times. So this would be that the Bardo of reality. This would be that Bardo of reality that has no differentiation of time. It says the three times, the past, present, and future, which is meaning that there is no time. It's all the same. So this is the visualization. So here it is, Buddha Amitabha in Sukhavati heaven, we say, and with his two attendants here. So he is wearing the three Dharma robes and possesses all the major and minor marks of a Buddha. His two hands are in the Samadhi Mudra, and he is holding the begging bowl, which is filled with the blessed nectars. So this blessed nectar is the Dharma elixir. We say the Dharma elixir. This is the medicine that becomes the antidote to all our afflictive emotions, all our confusions, and so on that we talk about week after week. So this is the Dharma elixir here in this bowl. He's in the Samadhi Mudra, in the meditation Mudra. Okay. If there's any questions while I'm going along, don't hesitate to speak right up. Sitting in the
I got a
Vajra.
question.
Yes.
I have a question. The three Dharma robes, is there a specific reference to when they say three Dharma robes? What do they mean?
They mean that there is a like a skirt, there is an underskirt, and then there is a robe, the Zen, that goes on top of across the shoulders, and those would be the three Dharma robes. So a
There's no
monastic.
symbolic content. It's just more of a monastic.
Maybe it is, and
uniform.
you being ordained, maybe you can explain that to us. If you don't know now, you can explain it to us later. But I don't know. Do you have anything you'd like to share with us about that?
Yeah, I haven't read anything referring to that specifically. I thought, well, does that mean
Well,
the
there
Buddha
are
Dharma and the
specific instructions,
Sangha?
yes.
Yes, it made me think of the Buddha Dharma and the Sangha, or the body, speech, and mind, or the three bodies of the Buddha. I didn't know if there was something specific.
These were the simple robes that Buddha Shakyamuni requested that his followers that they wear, so that they don't have any. They have humility. They don't have any kind of ego attachment to their clothing and so on like that. Specifically, what each one symbolizes and what their name is, that I don't know.
Thank you.
But there is that knowledge. It is there if you want to find it.
I have a question real quick.
Yes.
Do you know the ingredients of the Dharma elixir, or is this just a metaphor for what the elixir is on the individual who learns the Dharma?
Well, this is an interesting question. And some people would tell you, some monastics and so on would tell you that it is simply a symbolic water, has saffron in it. Sometimes it will have, wine in it or something like that. That'll be in there. And but you'll read some other places, and you hear some other places that these were actually herbs, and these were ingredients that were cultivated by the monks themselves. They would go out and forage in the woods and bring these back and make up a concoction and so on. And there would be it would be a holy sacrament. That would be something that would be uplifting and so on, and help catapult the practitioners into a higher level. So, but today it's with most of us, it's practiced as water with saffron in it.
Very interesting.
Yes.
It's very interesting. I also had a question about the picture at the bottom of the image that shows Amitabha. There's a hexagon, and one of the doorways of the hexagon that faces Buddha Amitabha is open. That's underneath him. There's like a doorway, and I was curious.
Wait a minute. You mean this?
The
Or this?
hexagon,
This hexagon right here? Oh, I see
yeah,
what you're
there at the
saying.
bottom, and the doorway like opens
Yeah,
into
well, that's a very good observation. Yes.
like Nirvana or something.
I wouldn't say that this is nirvana because you see that this is an ocean here.
Right.
So this would be like the blossoming of the lotus flower that is coming up through the bottom of the ocean, and is coming and then becomes this lotus pedestal. I think it would be referred to as that.
Oh wow.
You see,
Well, it's
because
very interesting, just to say the least.
yes, and so again, what I'm trying to introduce you to is that there is a lot of symbolism here that is in many of these different practices. So my intention is to be able to help you to say, oh, I want to learn more about this. I need to dedicate myself a little bit more to learning about these things, reading about these things, requesting teachings and information from the lamas who, have spent their lifetimes learning about these things to share with us. So this is a glimpse into that mindset of saying, "Oh yes, I want to learn more about this stuff. This is really fascinating and really helpful."
Yes, that and thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. So wearing the three Dharma robes, sitting in the Vajra. So here he's sitting in the Vajra position with his lights radiating from out of his body. He is surrounded by the lineage lamas. So in this particular image, we don't see that, but in this image here, we see this. So this is the lineage, this is the PHOWA lineage tanka. So here is Buddha Amitabha. Below him is Vajrayogini that we're going to go back to. Down here is Mahakala, Dharma protector. Here is Achi Chokidroma, another Dharma protector. Over here is Palden Lama, another Dharma protector. And up here are the lineage lamas of the founding lamas of Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lorgam Popa, and Bhagmadrupa and Lord Kungpa. And at the very top up here is, well, let's take a look. I think I know who that is. Let's see what it is in this. So it's Buddha Amitabha here at the very top. This is, this here is Jigdan Sumgun. So these become the other lineage lamas, and in the textbook, in the book that we have here, when you go to the pages of 18 and 19, this is the short form of the PHOWA lineage prayer, and all the names of these lamas who took this practice and be able to kind of like formalize this practice, and it became part of the culture of a certain part of the Drikung Kagyu and everything. So these were the formative lamas that supported that and continued that. All right. This is what I'm saying. These things will all begin to connect with so many other things. With all these other practices that you see, all these iconography images and so on. So sitting in the Vajra position, lights radiating from out of his body, he's surrounded by all the lineage lamas. So here is another image. Let me see. So here, light radiating from his body. Now I want to point something out to you. So you see this areola here behind him. You see the halo around him, which, which in many different traditions represents the sacred holiness of this particular individual. But this is something, these radiations, this light radiating like this is something that is special to the Vajrayana, to the Tantrayana practices and so on. What does that remind you of, if anything?
The sun.
The sun? Okay.
Is there an answer that you're looking for?
Well,
For that?
I will give my, I've said these things before to you. And, I look at these practices and so on are things that have developed out of being human beings and being creatures of the earth and using the substances of the earth and being able to bring them in, just like we eat our food and to give us energy, to give us the right vitamins, to sustain our bones and our body, our blood, and all these different things. We're eating all these foods and so on. And there are things that we can do to stimulate our mind, our brain, and so on. There are things that we can do for that. And there are things that we can do for our spirit to be able to help us with understanding that too. So these things, and in my way of thinking, these are psychedelics. And if you look at this, what does this look like? What would you say that looks like? Would anybody agree that that looks like
Gary,
a
Gary
mushroom
and
cap?
Gavin.
Would
Gary
that
and
look,
Gavin.
what's that?
It could resemble some sort of mushrooms
Correct.
that may have a psychedelic
That's right. And
function.
there are books to this end. There are books that
But
have investigated.
it also could be wings. You could literally be looking at the depiction of an individual with wings,
The
and those are
Judeo-Christian take that tact.
true. The Judeo-Christian Buddha,
Takes that tact, but
right?
not in the Vajrayana.
Right.
So critical thinking. Okay, so now we go back to the text. So he's surrounded by the lineage lamas, which I explained. So now with one pointed mind, take refuge. One pointed mind. How many times do we talk about that each time we have a session? We talk about one pointed mindfulness. In other words, being able to control our mind, that we're not being pulled in all these different directions by our emotions and thoughts of different things and so on, attachments, whatever. So with one pointed mind, take refuge. I and all sentient beings take refuge in our root Lama in the form Amitabha as our teacher and guardian. So this concept of our teacher and our guardian, because this becomes a protection. The Dharma is a protection. When we do our food offering, we say to the Buddha, the supreme guide, I make these offerings of food. To the Dharma, to the supreme protector, I take these offerings of food. To the Sangha, these, to the Buddha, the supreme teacher, to the Dharma, the supreme protector, and to the Sangha, the supreme guides. So we're seeing this again here, coming together, our root Lama as our teacher and as our guardian, the Dharma bringing the Dharma to us. So we take refuge in the PHOWA as our real path to enlightenment. Take refuge in the lineage lamas as our companions on the path. Bestow upon us your great compassion. So let me go back a little bit and said that we were talking about the Dharmakaya, which is that non-conceptual truth body. And then there's the Sambhogagaya, where all this display, all this symbolism, all this anthropomorphic characterizations are taking place in order to be able to intellectualize something that can't be intellectualized by itself. You know, the true nature can't be intellectualized, but we're trying to do that through this Sambhogagaya, this display. So there's a holy quality to it, but there also is a catch that we can become prideful of this. This can lead to a pridefulness. This can lead to a hindrance of freedom, of being able to miss the opportunity of liberation because we become so absorbed with the idea, oh, I'm Buddha Amitabha, oh, I'm Vajrayogini, oh, I'm Vajrasattva, whatever it is. So these are guides for us, but they are only that. So that which brings it to us, that which identifies this and gives us the tools to be able to do this is the Nirmanakaya. This is the teacher who is in emanation form, who is a human being who can communicate with us to be able to tell us, oh, this is what you need to be looking out for. This is what you need to be developing and so on. So these are the three kayas, the three vehicles. There's the Dharmakaya, which is the space element. There's the Sambhogakaya, which is the intellectual element. And there is the Nirmanakaya, which is the physical element. So the physical element and the intellectual element are literally servants to the pure element, to the pure nature, are servants to that. They are phenomenal nature. They take place in phenomenal nature for the benefit of phenomenal beings. We are phenomenal beings. But within us is the absolute. And this is what we're trying to recognize. And as we do that, that the phenomenal nature just becomes more and more transparent, becomes more and more illusory, that we're not bound by the permanence, thinking that this is permanent. It is illusory. We see that, and then we become inseparable from that Dharmakaya. So I take refuge in the PHOWA as that practice, that transference of consciousness from going from everyday consciousness, phenomenal consciousness, as our real path to enlightenment. These are the bhumis. These are, the stages that we go through, the successive stages that we go through to be able to purify all those things that are holding us back, so that we can get to that point of liberation, that freedom, cutting through and crossing over. So we take refuge in the lineage lamas as our companions on the path. So all those lineage lamas, as great as they are like our brothers and sisters. And they are companions because they are human beings who they themselves have had to tread this path. And they're teaching you their experience. Because at this level, one is not going to be saying, well, this is what the book told me. This is what my experience has led me to. This is my experience. So take refuge in the lineage lamas as our companions on the path. Please bestow upon us your great compassion. So the compassion here is the skillful means, is the method by which we are able to recognize this wisdom, this loving kindness, this bodhicitta. So we're setting our mind in this. The power of prayer. Then the next one says, I will practice the precious PHOWA teaching in order to enable all sentient beings who have been my mother in numberless times to attain Buddhahood quickly. So I will practice this over and over again. And what this PHOWA is the transference of consciousness from being a living human being to letting our body die, and that releasing our spiritual mind, our spiritual body, into the spiritual realm, if you will, into space. There's, and using these words are all misnomers, because none of them can absolutely qualify or objectify what it is. It has to be experienced. And it's very, 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 very subtle. So I will practice the precious PHOWA. So this is a meditation. We're doing this as a meditation practice, so that when our time comes of actual death, that we're prepared to be able to do that cutting through and crossing over. So we do that over and over again on the cushion. Every one of our deity yoga practices is another rehearsal of doing that. So we're rehearsing over and over. We've done this many times, as human beings have gone through this. All the animals have done this. All phenomenal beings have been going through this migrating beings going through this cyclic existence over and over again of being reborn. When we went through and we talked about the 6 human realms and we talked about the 12 links of interdependent origination, we went through what this process is. So now we're getting down to the point of being able to control this energy within ourselves for the sake of the liberation. This is how we break the cycle. That we remain in that spaciousness of freedom. If we come back for the benefit of others. This is why we are doing this. This is the role of the Bodhisattva, is to say, okay, I'm holding off on my personal liberation, because there's still suffering here, and I want to help those suffering beings. I cannot attain perfect liberation knowing that there's all this suffering here, and that I can help do something for that. So this is the role of the Bodhisattva. The Buddha has crossed over and becomes like the sun, is the analogy I always like to use, who has no thought, has no intention of doing this. The Bodhisattva has an intention for the benefit of others, for the benefit of themselves. The Buddha has no intention at all. It just is. It is the space. It is the continuum. It is the true nature. I will practice the precious PHOWA teaching in order to enable all sentient beings who have been my mother numberless times to attain Buddhahood quickly. So we're doing this for the benefit of others. This PHOWA practice is to be recited for the benefit of someone that you know who is passing away and does not have the benefit of this practice, or at least the stabilization of this practice, and you're reminding them, you're guiding them through that bardo of death into the bardo of reality. So you're guiding them in order to be able to do this. So in order to enable sentient beings to attain Buddhahood quickly, you're teaching, you're showing them this. We've all been in this Buddha, this realm of reality, this bardo of reality, we've all been there many times. It's where we came from before we were born. It's where we go when we pass away. So we are Buddha within ourselves. We just don't recognize it. We've said this many times. So now, with the motivation of aspiring bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta, one should practice the PHOWA. So with this intention to help other beings, and by helping other beings, we're helping ourselves. We're not selfishly helping ourselves, forgetting about other beings. That's not the way of the bodhisattva. The bodhisattva will suspend one's own liberation until all other beings are ready to be liberated. So now we come to the Drikung Poa Chenmo. So this is the practice. One should sit in a proper lotus position and think that one's body is emptiness. It is this emptiness, in this emptiness, one arises as a Vajrayogini who is red in color with two faces. So let me go back now, at the beginning of this conversation when I said that Vajrayogini's name, Vajra meant indestructible, indestructibility, indestructible wisdom, and Yogini is the female being in union. The female being in union. So yoga, the word yoga is a Sanskrit word that means union, coming together. That, two separate things coming together. So yoga is that. A yogi would be a male practitioner, and a yogini would be a female practitioner. It's really that simple. But a yogini or a yogi is at a higher level than an ordinary practitioner. So you might have a beginner, then a beginner who is learning the practices and the prayers and the courtesies and the protocols and things like that, developing a routine, developing some kind of a understanding about what it is that they're doing and so on. And then a practitioner then has now formalized a routine that they're doing regularly, every day, once a day, twice a day, whatever it is that they're doing, being able to be a practitioner, to be on the pathway, and to use the lineage to help them to be able to do that and so on. So here, Vajrayogini is the indestructible union female who is bringing this wisdom, is bringing this life, bringing this energy to fruition, And she's red in color with two faces. So here, I'm going to just go ahead here a little bit. So here, you can see her two faces. Here is her main face, right here. Her red face. And over here is a blue face, a dark blue face. You see this here. So this is the ordinary face of a human being. And this face here is a face of a boar, but what this symbolizes is the Dharmakaya. This represents that indestructible wisdom, that true nature that is part of, that's coming out of the right side of Vajrayogini's head. So it's symbolic that within Vajrayogini is this indestructible nature, is this Dharmakaya. So here she has her two eyes. She's got her third eye, which is the wisdom eye. She's got a semi-wrathful face, a semi-wrathful teeth. So she's not completely wrathful as you might see in some other deities, but she's got that grimacing and her canine teeth would be pronounced. So we see that. So then let me go back to the text, and we're going to come back to the image again. Oops, sorry, let me see here. Her main face, make sure I didn't skip over anything. Right, okay. One should sit in the proper lotus position. and think that one's body is emptiness. In this emptiness, one arises as Vajrayogini, who is red in color with two faces. So this emptiness is very important. You know, we talk about it, but you know, we haven't really practiced emptiness yet. And this is one of the things that, you know, we're very happy to be able to do, but to do it over Zoom becomes much more problematic, and there needs to be a real commitment to be able to successfully be able to do that. And to be in person, I think, is very important to be able to cut through those that space between us and be able to kind of come together. So we're happy that here in Baltimore now we think we have a good place that we can go to, that we can use, that they are very welcoming and so on. So we'll be able to do that more and more. And then, of course, there's other places all around the country and so on, different Dharma centers and everything that you can go to. But it's to be able to cultivate this recognition of the emptiness, which is nothing to recognize, is to see that all this is just a figment of a fabrication of our imaginations that we agree on in order to satisfy our intellectual desire to want to know things and so on. But we come out of this emptiness, we come out of this spaciousness, we come out of this Dharmakaya, and we manifest in all these appearances. So that we begin this process now by saying from that one's body is emptiness, that we're coming out of this. In this emptiness, one arises as Vajrayogini, who is red in color with two faces. Her main face is graceful looking with three eyes. The hair is loosely knotted on the top and adorned by a crown of dry 5 skulls. Her second face, black in color, is the face of a grunting sow. So this is representative of that Dharmakaya, like I was saying. Now, these 5 dry skulls are representative, symbolic. These 5 dry skulls are representative of the 5 Buddha families. Buddha Amitabha would be this one right over here, who is left of center, being Vajrayogini. It's on our right side, but it's on her left side. In the center would be Buddha Varanchana. In the right of Buddha Varanchana would be Buddha Ascobia. And to his right would be Buddha Ratnasambhava. And then back over on the left side would be Amitabha here. And then at this 5th one on the far left side would be Buddha Amagogasiddhi. So these are the heads of the 5 Buddha families, the male figures of the 5 Buddha families, and that she's wearing the crown of these 5 Buddha families. So it's implying this kind of mastery, if you will. Excuse me one second, I just want to fix this screen here. There we are. Okay, so she's wearing that. So let's go back to the text. She has 2 hands. The right hand is holding a hook knife up to the sky, and the left is holding a skull cup filled with blood at her heart. So we go back to the image, and here, I'll zoom in here. So she's got her 2 hands, her 2 arms. So she's holding a hook knife. This hook knife, this is called a drikog, and it's a flaying knife. It's used, that they would use to skin an animal, you know, and they would be cutting the fur and the skin off of an animal and then use it for clothing, use it for their shelters and so on like that. So this is cutting away the roots of the causes of suffering, is what this is symbolic of. And she's raising it to the sky, says, here I am, I'm using this, I'm cutting this off to purify myself so that I can rise to that spiritual sky, to that spacious sky that figuratively, is that blue sky, that eternal blue sky that is above us, that represents this freedom and so on. So it's cutting through the roots of the causes of suffering. The roots, cutting through the causes, the roots of the causes. It's important to make that distinction, to write that down. We want to cut ourselves off from the afflictive emotions, but to cut us off from the afflictive emotions, which are ignorance and hatred and desire and jealousy and greed, there are causes. So those causes are what we need to cut ourselves off of. If we cut ourselves off from the causes, then the karma won't manifest. Those afflictive emotions won't arise because the causes have been cut off. And it's a decision. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to stop doing that. It comes down to that. So this is in her right hand. The right hand is doing, it's the method. It's the hand of method, the hand of actualization, doing something. Then in her left arm, her left hand, at her heart, is this bowl. It's a kapara, which is a skull cup. It would be a human skull cup. It came from a burial ground, a charnel ground. And so this is filled with blood. It's filled with offal. It's filled with urine. It's filled with feces. It's filled with the things that we would regard as being disgusting. But for her, she says, this is my unimpeded enjoyment. This is my unqualified enjoyment of all these things. All this stuff now is on the same path as all the good stuff. It's all the same to me. And this is a huge realization. This is a huge actualization of the realization, to be able to see that all this is all part of being a human being, and is part of what we have to be able to, if I can use the word, neutralize, to bring together, that it's all the same. It all becomes the same. This is the same as if it was honey or something that we would love to be drinking. But it is the stuff of the world. It is the stuff of phenomenal nature at her heart. In some images of this, you will see that Vajrayogini is literally drinking it. Her hand is up like this. So it shows this unqualified enjoyment of being a human being, that we need to be able to turn whatever, contempt, whatever disgust, whatever unsatisfactoriness we have for this life, and be able to say, oh, actually, this is a great gift that I gave myself. I need to work with this. I have issues, I have problems that I need to work out. I need more purification to do. But nevertheless, it's through this crucible that I'm able to do this purification and so on. So that's the representation of this at the heart, and being able to say, well, this is central to everything that I am doing. So whether she's drinking it or it's at the heart, the meaning is the same. That is profound. That is at the elemental level of this, the essence of the purpose of this. left holding a skull cup filled with blood at her heart. The next one, at her left shoulder, she carries a Kadvanga staff, and she's in the dancing position with her left leg bent and her right leg stretched out, standing on a yellow corpse. So here is the Kadvanga. The Kadvanga is a staff, is this rod, is this staff. And on this staff are figures that represent the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, and the Nirmanakaya. There is a Vajra. There is something here at the crown. Here is a Vajra. Sometimes there is a trident. Sometimes the artist will make a trident out of this, which represents the 3 times, penetrating the 3 times. Here is a silk kata offering, and then there will be a bell. Sometimes you'll see a dilbu like this, and the Vajra like this, and they represent wisdom and compassion, and there'll be a drum, the damaru, which represents calling all the Dharma protectors. So this Kadvanga is like this, and here is a string of bells, and here is a drum, and so on. So this represents the male aspect of Vajrayogini. That this is the actualization, the object of the meditation, the completion. She's the feminine. He would be the masculine would be the object of that coming together. So then, let me see here. So she's in a dancing position. Her one leg, in this case, her right leg, is on the ground, which is standing on a human body. So what this represents is the transcendence, that she is the transcendence of ordinary humanness. She is rising above that, like standing on the shoulders, but more than that, standing on the chest, standing on the heart, coming out of this, from being an ordinary human being. And this dancing position represents that she is in motion, that there is a flux to this. There is a change to this. There is a flowing to this. The stability is in that flowing, in that continuum. We talk about that, there's a dance that we go through, and we can have a prescribed way, a choreography of doing the dance. And we can do that perfectly, but sometimes, for some reason, we might lose our balance. And when we lose our balance, our leg has to go out in a position that it wasn't choreographed to do. But what does the wise person do? The person includes that new step of the dance into their routine. That becomes part of my choreography now. That's the creative process, that I include that now. It doesn't become adverse to it. We just include it. It becomes part of the process, the change that we're going through. So she's standing on a yellow corpse. So the yellow is representative of a human being, of being on the planet. Yellow is the color of Ratnasambhava, the color of the earth. Then wearing a necklace of 50 fresh heads and many bone ornaments and a garment of red silk, she is visible but without substance. So the necklace of the 50 fresh heads is worth mentioning. So here, these 50 fresh heads, and what these represent are the 50 mental dissonant states that she has overcome. So it represents these heads here, which are her heads. This is what I've overcome. My 50 heads of my dissonant mental states. So to give you an example, I'm not going to read them all, but to be able to give you an example of what some of those dissonant states might be: anger, malice, fury, envy, miserliness, dishonesty, deception, arrogance, mischief, indecorum, indecency, obfuscation, agitation, distrust, laziness, carelessness, forgetfulness, distraction, inattentiveness. So these are all things that at one time or another we've been guilty of. But to be able to overcome them, to cut them off at the head and wear them as an ornament, this is what I've been able to do. So the other bone ornaments, these different things that she's wearing and so on, are just representing, the joyousness of overcoming, becoming an ordinary human being. That now we are a transcendent being. We are a tantric being. We are a being of the continuum. So then it says, many bone ornaments and a garment of red silk, which is ornamental. She is visible but without substance. So this is the rainbow body, the illusory body, that within us, that is like our true nature. To be able to get to that point where the I, me, mine has gone, whether it's Lance or it's Gary or it's any one of us, that is gone. And it's just this rainbow body, translucent, just an appearance, but without any substance. Inside her body is the central channel, hollow and straight as a water tree, blue on the outside and red on the inside, and transparent like a colored glass. So this is the center channel that we have talked about, we've mentioned many times. And it starts 4 inches below the navel, and it goes up through the body to the top of the head, to the crown, the aperture of Brahma that's called. It's about the thickness of a pencil or your little finger, and it runs parallel to the spine. And it is the center channel that the chakras intersect with. And then the chakras go off into all the different channels and so on through the body. Right now, we're focused on this center channel, because it's this center channel is where our life energy, our life force has run up and down, has been going up and down, has energized this center channel from the time we were conceived. And it stays with us. And at the time of death, at the time of our physical body, we have to eject that. When our outer breath stops, our body dies, our intellect, our memory, all that goes. But the inner breath, which is representative of our spiritual nature, has to be ejected. Otherwise, it's going to become corrupted. It needs to be liberated. So we want it to liberate from the crown of our head to the feet of Buddha Amitabha, who's standing above us, and then from his feet it goes into his heart. So inside her body is the center channel, hollow and straight as a water tree, blue on the outside and red on the inside, transparent like a colored glass. So here it is. So it looks like a test tube, if you remember back in your high school days. So here it's hollow, it's blue on the outside, red on the inside. The blue on the outside represents the father, the red on the inside represents the mother. And then it says the upper opening is at the crown of the head and the lower point ends at the secret place. Well, here it's saying it goes down to our genitals. It goes all the way down to our genitals. And it's through this that this energy, and this energy is being depicted by, whoops, sorry. Wait a minute, I lost my place here. Oh, I see my pictures are in the way. So here is a moon here and in a lotus pedestal. So this is, and this is this it's not really a moon, it's the bindu. The bindu is the drop, you know, that seminal drop of that is our energy coming together with the father and the mother. So the vessel is like the mother and the father, and this is the seminal energy drop. And it's this drop that needs to be ejected. It says at the heart point is a red four-petal lotus, that was the lotus over here, in the center of which sits one's essence of one's consciousness in the form of a red ball the size of a pea. It is light and reverberating. Visualize this clearly. So this light, this bindu, here becomes the source of all the energy that is running through all the channels, all through the chakras that intersect with this, and then going through all the channels of the body and so on. But now all that is collapsing. It's all collapsing down to this center channel and this bindu. So it's vibrating, you know. Then it says, above the opening in the crown of one's head is Buddha Amitabha, who is the essence of one's own root lama in Nirmanakaya form, wearing the 3 Dharma robes and possessing all the major and minor marks of a Buddha. So representing this Buddha nature, representing that. And this is the object of the PHOWA, is to allow that bindu to go to the heart of Buddha Amitabha, the wisdom of discriminating awareness. So here again is the image of Buddha Amitabha. He is sitting in Buddha Maitreya position with his 2 big toes placed on the opening of the crown of one's head. So it's saying you in the form of Vajrayogini. So he's sitting in this Buddha Maitreya position with his 2 big toes placed on the opening of the crown of one's head, and you in the form of Vajrayogini. So here it is. So this would be you as Vajrayogini, would be the center channel. So now the body is gone. You know, now it's just this bindu. Now it's just this center channel, and wanting to escape, not escape, but transfer through the crown of the head to the heart of Buddha Amitabha. Surrounding Buddha Amitabha are all the lineage lamas of the PHOWA. In saying the name of each lama think, and saying the name, reciting the name of each lama think, bless my mind's continuum, and bless me to practice the PHOWA successfully. Upon death, may I attain Dewachen, blissful pure land. So bless my mind's continuum. The mind, the intellectual mind, the spiritual mind coming together, it being ejected. Bless me to practice the PHOWA successfully, that I do this on the cushion, so that I may, when the bardo of death comes to me, I am able to eject this without hesitation. I'm completely familiarized with it. I'm completely prepared for it. I know the process, and I do it completely effortlessly. And in an adept yogi or yogini, that you don't even realize that the body is dropped, that you are already one, inseparable from that Dharmakaya, and you don't even realize that the body is gone. You are just in that you become that spacious body, that I can't even think of the word now. The body that is only light, the rainbow body. So upon death, may I attain Dewa Chen. So Dewa Chen is the Tibetan name for Sukhavati, and Sukhavati is the Sanskrit name of the heaven, or the level, if you will, of Buddha Amitabha at this point. It's like the entranceway. It is a God realm that we are coming to, and that through that, then we are, through our wisdom of discriminating awareness, we're able to navigate and be able to become one with that spaciousness, and not to reincarnate. So upon death may I attain Dewa Chen, the blissful pure land. So then here is the lineage lamas. So we're visualizing this again: Vajrayogini, Buddha Amitabha, the founders of the Kagyu lineage, the protectors down here, and so on. So that is the visualization of Vajrayogini, that we are Vajrayogini. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that? There's still something else I want to explain to you, but if there's something else now, we can talk for a couple minutes.
So over the weekend, Geishe, sorry, I want to make sure what's the best way to address from the empowerment? What is the proper way to address sorry, I want to make sure I'm saying it right. From the teachings on this weekend, he referenced a certain number of times you do it initially, this practice in the beginning, and then you build it into like a maintenance so that you remember it stays in your deeper consciousness. Did he reference a month or 2 weeks?
I don't remember exactly. You can listen to the recordings. I think the point is whatever you need to do is what's necessary.
I remember what he said. He said initially one does a period of intensive practice, all day practice for 10 days or 2 weeks, usually when learning this practice, until one feels that one can do the practice successfully. Actually, there's supposed to be signs of success of practice, but he didn't mention those. And thereafter, after you feel you can do it successfully, to keep it fresh in your memory, do it once a month on the full moon day.
Bernie, do you know the signs, or Lance, do you know the signs?
I know the signs, but I'm not going to say them because they sound so weird.
The signs of what?
Success from the PHOWA practice. Actually, I'll tell you, is that I don't know that they actually happen, but supposedly a little bit of fluid appears on top of your head where the crown chakra is supposed to be, as if it's opening. And that you get a little bit of blood or lymph or something like that at the top of your head where the crown chakra is. So
yeah, and in the strict retreats and so on, there are those who that will occur, and to prove that this has been successful, and actually we did this when we did retreat, was the ceremony is called the standing blade of grass. And they would take a long piece of grass, acacia grass, and it would have a point to it, and they would literally stick it into that aperture, and it would stay there. So remember, this is quite advanced.
yeah.
And my personal intention to share this with you and to request this with Lama Jersum was in order to inspire ourselves to take up these practices. Maybe not this practice right now. Maybe we're not ready for this practice right now. But to take up the practices that cultivate our level of being able to develop the one-pointed mindfulness that will take us to a practice like this and to the other practices. So there is a bit of a linear succession that we can follow. And I think we need to be inspired to do that. We don't live in an environment and in a culture where it supports that. If we don't get it here in whatever way we can, we're not likely to get it, in this lifetime or whatever. But you guys have 30, 40, 50 years maybe to live. And you got a whole lot of experience ahead of yourselves. And I don't want to, for myself, I don't want you to miss the opportunity to be introduced to this. 50 years ago, when I first started learning this and people were giving me things and everything, it was inspiring me to read books. It was inspiring me to do things. It was inspiring me to meditate. And I was doing meditation that today would be, very, very fundamental, very poor meditation, but it led me to higher levels of meditation. And I think that's an important point. And we were talking about meditation yesterday when Lama Gerson was talking about, for me, there's always been a joy to this. I've always really, I never have felt a frustration or a dissatisfaction, only maybe that I couldn't go as fast as I wanted to, but I accepted that. So this is my purpose in being able to share this with you. And I think this, Lama Gerson and I talked about this quite a bit, and he too wanted you to, be introduced to this. Any other questions or comments? I'm sorry for the long answer, and I didn't answer your question directly like Bernie did.
Do people use psychedelics to get into this when they're trying to practice this intensely in the beginning?
Maybe. I wouldn't say no.
No, actually, no. It's just repetition of the mantra and repetition of the visualization. If you're doing it,
I wouldn't say that you need to do it at all. And
no.
it's better not to do it. Let me put it. Let me say that. Go ahead, Bernie. I'm sorry.
When you're doing well, have you? I don't know. I imagine people here have done meditation retreats where they meditated all day long for a period of time. Like when I went on the go, well, not me particularly, but a lot of people when they go on these 10-day Go Anchor retreats, say after the fourth or the fifth day, they have some kind of life-altering experience just because they've never meditated before intensively. And it really hits them very strong. Meditation can be stronger than psychedelics. Don't put down meditation at all. When you do it intensively, you're going to have some powerful experiences. And that's why they have these meditation retreats where you meditate for 3 days or 7 days or a week.
Well,
or
it's
even
true,
longer.
but I think that they're powerful, but they're more subtle.
Depends. Sometimes I've heard people say that it really, really, really breakthrough experiences. I'm always a little suspicious of those experiences when they're new people, but it can be a very powerful experience, and don't think that it has to be subtle. It can be subtle, but it might not be subtle. It could be very strong.
Well, when I say it's subtle in the point that you have control.
Not always. Some people sometimes feel they're going crazy. That's why that's why when you're doing an intensive retreat.
Well, I think we're getting too deep into it now.
Well, yeah, but you shouldn't do a retreat like that without permission of your teacher first, because sometimes people can feel like they're going crazy when they see something. don't discount that kind of thing. It does happen.
All right, so let me turn the conversation around and ask, and I'm just looking at the images on my screen. Gary, what does this mean to you? What did you think of this explanation of this practice?
Well, I've been sitting here. I mean, it presents meditation to me as not something where you're sitting still and clearing your mind of everything. It presented meditation to me as something in movement. And I don't know exactly how to explain that. A journey of sorts. Not a journey where you're necessarily following a set of directions or like you would be looking at road signs. A journey that goes where you clear your mind of clutter and your mind begins to carry you to places that you didn't even know that your mind knew about. I haven't been there yet. I always find that when I'm meditating, that the world taps me on the shoulder. I'm always struggling with that.
So what did this mean to you? In view of what you just said, that you get this tap on the shoulder, but what does this mean to you in view of that?
By this, you mean specifically?
Well, this type of practice. Let me ask you this way. Does this show you that there is something beyond that tap on the shoulder is what's pulling you
Oh,
back?
absolutely. The tap of shoulder is the obstructions in life. They're the impediments. There are, as you, to me, as you're finding yourself, you're going to Dewa Chen. There are things and phenomena that would impede you from doing that.
But what about those things that take you through those impedances to liberation? Do you recognize that this is a method in which to do that among many
Absolutely.
other things like this?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get to.
It really helps you to I will call them obstructions. It's probably not the best word, but there are things that try to distract you from that try to
Which
come
is our mind, right?
the mind. Yes, the mind, the thought, all the other things, your complete lifetime socialization, which have taught you about things that you should value, which are of no value at all.
Right. So you see what I'm trying to do, and we've kind of had this conversation before, is that the more that we talk about those things that are the impedances to us, the hindrances to it, the more we reinforce them. And that we need to be able to change our point of view to be able to find the things that liberate us and talk about those things. Instead of, who was it said, we shouldn't talk about the things of why not. We should talk about the things of what we can, something like that. So let me go back to Kunga. Kunga, what would you say about this?
So I didn't attend the retreat over the weekend, but I have been practicing the Shakyamuni Buddha visualization since January, I think, maybe earlier, probably around January. So that's part of my morning practice. And I've had them very valuable. Um, so I definitely can see the merits in this type of practice, this type of visualization practice. And using that structure to see yourself as the embodiment of all these wisdom qualities in the Shakyamuni Buddha visualization, talking about, you're sending out these multicolored lights to clear the defilements of all beings, you know. And sometimes, if I have a distracting thought pop into my head, I'll just turn that into another defilement to be cleaned, or or to be illuminated during the practice. So, and I appreciate there's a wide variety of these practices. I think there's a wide variety of people and personalities and stages of life, and different practices probably appeal to people at different points in their practice. Different challenges they might be having in life, maybe they apply different practices to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Gavin, what would you say? You probably didn't expect this tonight, but I wonder what you thought of this.
Well, just recently, when we were talking about the meditation there at the end,
Yes.
I started thinking about the word that we learned called the PHOWA, and you had described this word, its operational definition as the transference of consciousness from living entity into the spirit realm. And then I thought, like, well, when an individual engages in meditation, they're actively attempting to activate their own POA. They're not dying, but you're trying to activate this POA, the transference of the consciousness from living entity into the spirit realm. But then, you've been explaining it like, oh, well, POA is this concept of what it's like to have consciousness in a living entity transfer through the process of death into the void of nothingness. But that same concept applies then again back to the idea of meditation, and to actually do this when an individual is in the idea of, well, I'm going to go meditate. So I'm going to learn how to increase my level of operating POA in this vessel I operate now. And so that's what I've learned. That's what I feel. I've learned something powerful as a tool of that I could use in my lexicon, my mental dictionary, to help generate more understanding of what's happening while I meditate. What is this? What is the scientific definition? But this is the Tibetan Buddhist definition. But it can get scientific then at that point, where one's like, well, I'm getting into meditation to learn about this transference of consciousness from living entity into the spirit realm. And that's what meditation is as I'm living. It is all about the preparation for transferring out of this body and into the nothingness. And so, yeah, I learned a lot by today's lecture, and I'm very grateful to be here.
Well, good. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so that's like every meditation is like a death and a rebirth from that point of view. That you're a changed person from the person who first sat down on the cushion. If you have a successful meditation practice, that there's a change that has happened, that when you get up off the cushion, you're taking that change with you.
Yeah, and then that's like the Buddha Amitabha, and how you describe the characteristics and the male spear and the knife. All that goes with the idea of the POA, the idea of meditation, the idea of what we're preparing for as we're living in this idea of consciousness, which, you know, has its own interpretation. Many people
Yes.
say that going from this life into death is just like waking up in another body, and you're like, wow, that was an interesting dream. And as the cells replicate in your brain and that new body gets bigger, you slowly forget the life you once had, because the reality that you transferred into is so dramatic that it becomes the operant like memory complex as it occupies the new vessel.
Yes. Well, thank you. Let me, we don't have a lot of time left, but let me,
Yeah, no, thank you
let
very
me
much.
leave some time for Zara to speak. So, Zara,
Yes.
what has this done for you? What do you see in this?
Hey, yeah. I don't really have I have more technical questions. I'm already just from my own practices because of the Ashtanga yoga and my own private self-study on the Kundalini and the chakras. So some of the just visualization, right? So like the Tibetan presentation of the energy flowing up. So that is all resonates with me from paradigms I'm studying in like a yogic approach. And every time I do asana practice, like my goal is to bring in that Kundalini energy and try to, as I close my eyes, visualize that heat rising up. So that's in sort of a daily practice. I'm familiar with it. I think it's more of the intentionality in it, like from the going into it and the intentionality of this particular practice, going into like a final state of like Gavin and everyone was saying it, transferring into more of a permanent state of or just the transference from out of the sensory body. Because obviously, when I go into the yoga and asana practice, I expect to wake back, open my eyes up, and be in Zera, the body, right? Like from just a practical perspective, every time I do my 30-minute session, I will open my eyes and be like, okay, here I am back again. So to me, it's part of my daily practice to visualize Kundalini or chakra systems and have that breakthrough. So I just need to, I'm just kind of, for me, it's more of a conceptualization and cohesing all these different paradigms, not different paradigms, they're all over like a Venn diagram overlaid. I just putting it together with intentionalities is where I am. I already subscribe to this and I believe in it because I've had, as Bernie was saying, I've had moments where I call them out of body experiences now, especially with the sensory training I've been doing, where it's almost unbelievable and hard to describe, but and I guess some people say it's like your Kundalini moving, but it's almost like I don't even know what to say or how to describe the experience to someone. Like you can't describe it unless you experience it yourself. It's like a somewhat of an agitation, a little bit scary, like what's happening, feels dreamlike. It can become energetic. So I've had a couple experiences in the last couple of months where I don't know how to describe it other than it to me is a representation of Kundalini energy in my body shifting, and it has been associated with some kind of like color energy shift. I can see like a light shift, and then like feels like a vibrational energy. So some of the things that were described over the weekend have been happening for me in the last several months since I've become more aware of cleaning up my sensory environment in my day to day. I am able to get to deeper consciousness now. So when I drop into meditation, stuff is happening. Now, with this particular practice for practicing for death, have not done that. So I'm interested to know what people, if that's a really frightening experience when people get, like, that's where I'm more interested in is like, are people like freaking out that get into these deeper states? Like Bernie was saying, people in these retreats and then they need their spiritual mentor there to make sure they're not, spazzing out. That would probably be the question I would have for myself if trying to practice this at home.
Let me ask the question of anybody who wants to answer, and Bernie, I'll come to you in a second, but just the object of Vajrayogini as ourselves who is being liberated and what it takes, the purification that Vajrayogini is demonstrating through the implements that she's holding, like Gavin was talking about, the tools that she has and everything, which are representing that purification. Is there an identification with that? Can you see that's what she is symbolic of that purification of being an ordinary human being to becoming a spiritual human being?
I'll just jump in really quickly because this is happening real time for me in the last 2 weeks. So like I've been going through these shifts where I was over analyzing karma, couldn't be around people because I was like, oh my gosh, I was too sensitive. Now something has happened where everything's the same, like likes and dislikes don't exist anymore. It has all become the same, right? Like where I like I like meaning I'm neutral to things that I formerly would say, I don't like that. Like, I don't want to eat that, or I don't like that person. Now it's sort of like I'm floating in the sea of it's all the same stimuli and I'm all in love with all of it. I'm in love with all of those things. So to answer your question, like what she's holding, that representation of all of that stuff is there. That's happening right now where I'm like, okay, cool. All of this suffering is for me. And if I don't need to have any more aversion, I lean into all of it with this abundant heart now. And I like 7 days ago, I was like, I can't go into Whole Foods because people were aggravating the heck. And now I'm like, I love you. I love that. Thank you for running into my cart. Thank you for bringing your dog in, and your dog is running up and licking. Yeah, all that stuff. So that's happening right now. And I don't know if that is symbolically what you're asking, unless she's holding that and it's all the same.
Okay, good. Thank you. Kunga, you wanted to say something.
Well, she looks to me like an ascetic. Um, and then those different objects just seemed like this reinforcement of being committed to your practice. Um, using not just thinking of the practice as something you do, at a certain time of the day, but just living that practice. I mean, that's the kind of imagery I get from that figure. And I was thinking about these practices in general, and I don't think we're supposed to think of them as a means to an end. I think that the practice is the end itself. I think if you think of this practice as you're going to do this practice because you're going to get something else, that's can create a barrier. It's really just doing the practice. You just do the practice. You're actually doing the practice. You're experiencing the experience, not the right word. You're experiencing the power of the practice. And if we think I'm going to do
The
this practice,
subtlety
so I'm
of
going
it
to,
will kick in. You'll see
yeah,
the subtlety
I
of it.
don't. I think it's a danger to think I'm going to do this practice because I'm looking to get something out of it. Because then you're thinking about that, and that becomes a distraction. Thank you.
Thank you. So Bernie, do you have any comment you'd like to make about this? And
About
you
the
weren't here for the
weekend,
beginning part, but we were talking about Vajrayogini and her.
well, of course, I was late because I was taking my Spanish class earlier, so I'm sorry for that. I mean, I thought your description was good. It reinforced what the Lama said over the weekend, so I can remember it better. Uh, so I don't have any complaint about your description of Vajrayogini. I think, okay, a lot of times when they explain something as far as this means this in terms of Vajrayogini's wearing this, and this means this, and this means that. A lot of times these things have more than one meaning, and you can give one meaning, or you can give a different meaning that's slightly different. And I don't think there's anything wrong with your explanation. I think it was pretty traditional, but I think we have to be open to the fact that all these symbolic things that we see don't just have a single one interpretation, that they've got many. Often there's more than one interpretation of the significance of, let's say, the ornaments that the deity is wearing. That would be my only comment.
Yes, and this was, like an outer introduction.
Yeah.
And there's many different practices, something from the 15th century, something from the 18th century, something from the 12th century. There's been these masters who this has kind of come from and so on. And, Yeah, so, but we're paying homage to all of them. You know, and then in the end, if there is an end, you know, if you want to put it that way, it just becomes wisdom. It just becomes, you know, just
Yeah,
liberation.
I just think, well, I have no I have no complaint about what you said. I just think that people, when they do these things, they need to have an open mind and not be dogmatic about it. So if they hear another teacher give a different explanation of the symbolism, they don't say, "Oh, you're wrong. I heard it this
Right,
way from this teacher," you know. So
right.
no, just don't. I'm not saying you implied that, but I hope people don't fall into that attitude.
No, I think it's a good point. Yeah, there's equality in all of this. You know, that's a realization of samadhi, of liberation, that there's equality in everything. You know, that's the fourth of the four vast immeasurables, equanimity. Well, this sounds like it was stimulating in one way or another, and I'm glad I got to share this with you, and that you were present with Lama Jersum as much as you were, and if you weren't, and you can watch it on YouTube, and it's there. If you subscribe to the channel, it's there. I think I put it up onto the WhatsApp, so you can use that as a link to get there, and so this was the one missing thing, and the empowerment for Amitabha, Buddha Amitabha, is not on the wasn't recorded because he did not want that to be recorded, but the practice was, and more explanation and more discussion. So I think it's been a great weekend, and thank you all for your participation and thoughts and so on. So, Kunga, you're being Umze tonight. Would you recite the dedication prayer? We can do the short dedication prayer on page, well, why not do the one on page 31, the dedication prayer by Lord Jigden Sumgun, because it's general but specific.
Okay, on my book, that's not on page 31. I think the dedication praise Lord Chidkin Sampa.
Do you have the red book? Is that,
Yeah, I do. It's on page 36.
how did you get that page? Okay, well, very good. Well, please go ahead.
Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root, lineage, lamas, divine assemblies, yidams, assemblies of Buddhas, bodhisattvas, yogins, yogini, dakini, dwelling in 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtue collected in 3 times by myself and all sentient beings in samsara, nirvana, and any virtue, not result in 8 worldly concerns, 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as Shravaka or Pradika Buddha. May all other sentient beings, especially the entities who hate me and mine, abductors who harm, misleading Maras, and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings in my body, speech, and mind. May the affliction, desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master of good qualities equal to infinity's space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering that arising at the time of my death, may I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong views. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such in the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I in any case gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om Ahum. Om Ahum. Om Ahum. May my body, speech, and mind be inseparable from the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Very good. Thank you all very much. Have a good week. I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
evening.
And good night.
Thank you. Have a good night.